Welcome back. This is Linda from the Hamilton Public Library, and today we'll be making a book page wreath. You're going to need a piece of cardboard or foam board cut into a 6-inch diameter circle, some book pages that you've cut out of a book, an old book, and stapler, glue, and tape. So here I have different types of cones that I've made. This is a long and narrow cone, and then you have one that's slightly shorter and wider. And then here I have one that's made out of sheet music if you wanted to try something different. So we're going to start with the long and narrow cone. I'm going to show you how to roll both. They do produce a slightly different wreath. So this one here, I can see right away that it is blank on the one side. So you don't want any pages that are blank on one side. You'll need something that has writing on both sides. And you don't want the pages that start the new chapter either. So this one has writing on both sides. So we're going to roll it right into the corner there. You can see how this makes a very long and narrow cone. And you're going to flip it over, adjust the top a little bit, and then we're going to tape it closed. Now with the long and narrow cones, you will need to tape them closed. You'll see with the shorter ones that we can just staple them without taping. And this cone will be stapling at the bottom, about 1 inch from the bottom. This helps when you're gluing them down to keep the bottom nice and flat. So I'll show you how to do a couple more, and then we'll try the other type of cone. So again, I'm going to roll it right into the corner there, and you're going to flip it over, adjust the top, tape it, and staple it. So this does take a bit of practice, so don't get frustrated if it doesn't work on the first try. And here you can see one that I've made with sheet music, and the same thing, you're going to just staple the bottom. The sheet music, because they're larger pieces of paper, you're going to have to cut them down to the size of a book page. So this one is a bit wider. This is the type of cone we're going to use today to make our book page wreath. And instead of going into the corner, you're actually going to curl it about 1/4 from the bottom of the page. You're going to adjust it and then just staple the bottom. You can see that this makes a much wider cone at the top and a shorter cone in length. This one's my preferred method of doing the book page wreath, just because it makes the actual wreath look a little fuller. The narrow cones does make a much larger wreath, just because the cones are much longer. Okay, so you're going to need for the wreath we're making today about 36 cones of the shorter variety. You can see this one that I'm rolling right now is the start of the chapter, so you don't want to use that because your cone will be blank on the inside. So like I said, you're going to need about 36 to 40 cones to make the wreath we're making today with the shorter cones. If you are using the longer, more narrow cones, you'll need about 60, only because they are narrower and you'll need more to fill up the wreath. So here you can see I've pre-made a whole bunch of cones, so I'm going to show you how to start gluing them down, and we'll start that right away. So you can see here that I have placed all my cones around the circle. They're not glued down yet. Before I start, I like to plan out how I'm going to glue these around my circle. And so once you have it set the way you like, you can start gluing them down. So you're going to add a little bit of glue just to the tip of the cone on the back, and you're going to press down and just make sure it stays in place. It is a bit hot, so you might want to use a pen or a pencil to press down on the cone so you're not burning your finger. And you're going to go around the circle and glue all the cones down. You may have to move them around a bit as you're gluing just to be able to get them down. So I'm going to continue on here. And you're just going to glue them until they're all set in place. So now that we have the first layer complete, we're going to start gluing in the second layer. So again, you can place them around just so you know where to glue them. You'll want to place them in between the first layer cones and slightly lower. So you can see here I've placed them in between each of the cones and moved them down just a touch. So you don't have to plan out the second layer because you have the first layer there to guide you. So here you can see I have glued down the first cone. It is between two cones and just slightly lower so that you can see the opening of the cone in the first layer and the second layer. If you glue them in the exact same spot, you're not going to see the gradual layering of the cone, of the wreath, and then it just won't look right. So we're going to continue on gluing the second layer of the wreath. You're not going to put too many in this next layer because you'll find as you get to the middle of the wreath, it gets a little tighter and harder to fit them in. So you are going to continue placing the cones in between two previous cones and a slightly lower, but you're not going to go in between each cone. I would say every second. So you can see here, I'm trying to fit it in there. It's not going to fit. So we're going to move it over slightly. And it looks better in that second position. So you will find that as you get closer to the middle, depending how big you're going to make your wreath. This one's on the smaller side, so it doesn't have as many layers. If you were making one that was like, for example, a 10-inch diameter circle base, it's going to be a very large wreath, and you're going to need a lot more cones. So you'll find that you'll have more layers before you get to the middle there. So here I'm going to be placing probably about 7 cones in the middle. And you can see the circle forming in the center of the wreath. So you'll see, I'll show you a few different options of what you can do to kind of dress up the wreath in the middle. So we've got a couple more cones to go. It does get a bit harder to glue them in the middle as you get towards the center because it becomes thick with book pages. So just make sure you press down firmly and make sure it stays glued. You may need to even add a bit more glue. In this tutorial I've been using hot glue. You can also use white school glue. It just takes a little bit longer to dry. That's why I tend to use the hot glue. It's a little faster. So you can see here I've placed the last cone. And so the wreath is complete at this point, except for the middle. And here you can, for Christmas, you can put in a Christmas ornament. Choose the color that you like the most. I'll show you different ones that you can place in the middle. There's also, if you don't want to put anything in the middle, but you want to fill it up with more cones, you can do that. You will find though that the cones are too long to sit nicely in the middle, so you'll have to cut them down and staple them again. So you'll probably need about 3 to fill in this particular wreath in the middle. I don't want to glue them in because it's not my preferred way to finish off the wreath, but I'm just going to show you if you have 3 more cones that you can cut down to size and it's just filled in. Okay. I like to make my wreaths seasonal. So here you can see you can put in a Christmas ball. I don't glue in the ornaments usually. I like to tape them in. That way, if you want to use it for spring or summer, you can instead put, you know, artificial flowers in there like a hydrangea ball or a rose to kind of make it more seasonal, or whatever season you're using it for. If you do want to keep it just for Christmas and you want to put, you know, a group of ornaments, you can do that as well and glue them in. So you can see here using the different ornaments how you get a different look with each one. But I think I'm going to leave it with the sparkly gold ornament ball as that is my favorite. Thanks again for joining me today, and I hope you had fun and you'll try out my other tutorials on the Hamilton Public Library YouTube channel, and we'll see you again soon.